to the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS podcast with hosts Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook Live show here, breaking down Monday's 7-game main slate. Now, James, we had the Angels matchup there postponed due to the hurricane rain that's going on down there in California. That game not on tonight's slate any longer. So we got 7 games to talk about. You did the playbook. A lot of fun things to go over here tonight.
Yeah, something not fun that I'm just looking at, John, is the Mariners lineup. You know why it's not fun? Julio Rodriguez is not involved in that lineup. So, maybe a part of the MLB DFS playbook over at FantasyAlarm.com.
Was he the cover of today's?
No, not the cover, but maybe the second player written up in the playbook, in said playbook, right? So that's not fun. It was going to be an interesting slate because you and I discussed the Lucas Giolito factor last night. Kind of not factoring in that, LA was flooding and hopefully, people that are out there remain safe and everyone, everything gets back to normal sooner rather than later out there. But he was going to be the highest owned pitcher on the night when I was looking earlier today. Yeah. And he had some of the best win odds. He had Vegas really liked his strikeout props as DePrince pops in on time today. DePrince, hopefully your boss is much more lenient, about the way you arrive to things on time,
And no falling asleep today.
No falling asleep today. Yeah, no falling asleep today.
Hang with us for the full show.
Yeah, DePrince, hopefully you can make it through the show for your favorite pitcher, our favorite pitcher in 2 values by the end of the show. But interesting slate overall. I think there is not a lot of pitchers to like this evening. I think there's some shots that we're going to have to take. There's a lot of really good offenses tonight, John.
We also had a pitching change since this morning.
A couple actually. We've had, we in the same game actually. Miami, San Diego. Neither pitcher was what we
broke down last night.
Yeah, we also have a couple openers. I mean, there's been a lot of moving parts. I would say the unfortunate part is all the really good offenses that are in great spots are also really expensive. So we're gonna have to navigate some tricky waters tonight. But no one better to do so, John, than Scotty and MJ. And you know what? Whoever's Scotty and whoever's MJ, that's for them to decide and for us.
That is true. That is true. We'll leave that up to them. You were on the playbook today, so technically we'll give you the MJ tag for this afternoon here, Mark. No J-Rod makes me too Saints a viable option.
What are we doing here?
That's close enough. We'll talk about Tukey here in a moment as well. But before we do break down the DraftKings main slate here, shout out to our friends over at Real Time Fantasy Sports. Right now, they have a lot of great things going on, including their MLB DFS Pick'em games, along with their fantasy football best ball and fantasy football seasonal championship contests that are going on right now. And if you go to rtsports.com/alarm, use promo code alarm23, your first deposit will get matched 100% up to $200 there for new users. You can go ahead and take advantage of what they got going on over at Real Time Fantasy Sports here this evening. James, it is time for RT Sports Pick'em Plays of the Day. Take a look at the RT Sports Pick'em board here for tonight's MLB slate, James. I think we should kick it off with that Seattle-Chicago matchup here. And I like Luis Castillo more than the 6.5 strikeouts here tonight. Going up against the White Sox team, we know their strikeout rate against right-handed pitching is among the highest in baseball. Even over the last 30 days or so, they're still in that 24-25% range here. And Castillo flirts over the 6.5 number fairly often. Some days he'll go 7, some days he'll get 10, other days he'll go 5. But I think tonight's primed for a spot for him to hit the over. So I like Castillo more than the 6.5 Ks here this evening.
Yeah, I love that. He's a top pitcher on the board tonight. He's going to be the highest rostered pitcher tonight. And I think there's a reason for that. I think the strikeouts are going to be fruitful this evening. And I'm going to pair that, John. I'm going to head to one of those games that we saw a pitching change. Former Padre great, and by great, I mean not so great. Ryan Weathers is taking the mound for Miami this evening. I like both San Diego guys here between Ha-Seong Kim, more than half a run, and I like 5.5 fantasy points for Fernando Tatis. I'll go with the Fernando Tatis over 5.5 fantasy points.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to play
You
the
can
half
play
a
any of
run,
them.
yeah, you could play the more on both these.
7 of the last 8 appearances for Ryan Weathers, he's allowed more than 2.5 earned runs. And so take that for what it's worth, right? I mean, he has not been a good starting pitcher this season. He came in as a reliever in his Marlins debut and gave a 4 in 3 innings. He's just not a good starting pitcher. So I like that one a lot here. I think the last play that I want to go is over in the KC Oakland game here. I understand that Paul Blackburn has been riding high, but he's running into an absolute juggernaut of a team right now. You're right on it. I'm going to go less than the 5 strikeouts against KC. They have a 19% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching over the last 30 days. Just smoking everybody. I don't think Blackburn gets it done tonight against KC.
I'm a little split here because I like Blackburn tonight. I got to him in a bunch of my DFS lineups tonight. I wrote him up in we'll talk about that when we move on to the slate.
I'm skeptical.
But it's an interesting spot. I think we have a pitcher in good form and we have an offensive good form. Who's going to budge first?
All right. Who's more talented, Paul Blackburn or Bobby Witt Jr.?
Paul Blackburn.
Yeah. So I'm going less than the 5Ks here for me this evening. If you're not in on that, what's your other play? Do you have one?
No, I'm sticking with the 2-pack here.
All right.
The pod.
We got a 4x. We got a 10x opportunity then here tonight over on RT Sports. Again, you can go to rtsports.com/alarm. Promo code alarm23. New users will get a 100% deposit match with their first deposit. All right, James, let's turn it over. Time to take a look at what we got going on here over on the DraftKings main slate for tonight. Breaking down the 8-game matchup. Take a little look over with our Vegas totals here for today. Again, just 7 games on the main slate for everybody. What are we taking a look at here?
Yeah, so as you guys see, there's 2 games that are notable, at least in terms of the over-unders. We have Pittsburgh-St. Louis. That stayed consistent at 10. And the Atlanta Mets game actually moved up half a run. And, it's interesting because Atlanta obviously has been the best offense in baseball. They have a pretty good spot against David Peterson and the Mets. The Pittsburgh, this game is really interesting because Drew Rom has been really good in the recent starts in the minor league, and we've toyed with this 4K pitching thing a couple times. He is going to be the long man, or I guess he's starting for St. Louis, and on the other side they're going with a long man in Bailey Falter, and we know St. Louis has some pretty good bats against righties, so it's a really interesting game. Pittsburgh not getting a lot of ownership tonight, and I think they're kind of being underrepresented, but nothing else really stands out. Slade Caccione was originally the starter for Arizona. He is actually not anymore. They're going with an opener in that game. Joe Mantiply he's a lefty, so he's going to open. Not that he's expected to go long, and he hasn't pitched longer than 2 innings in the last 10 appearances he's made, but it is an interesting slate. I think there's some offenses that aren't getting a lot of love, like San Diego, Miami. I'm surprised that game only sits at 8.5, but I digress. So not a lot of interesting stuff on the Vegas front outside of the Braves, Mets, and Pirates, Cardinals.
Sure. All right, getting back to it here with the DraftKings main slate. Talk to me where you want to start. I mean, pitching is obviously there. We talked about Castillo, 10-3, the only guy up over 10K now. We have Waka added to the slate. We have Montgomery here at 9,800, 3 guys over 9K. How are you ranking the top 3?
I think it's like Castillo and then a large gap and then Waka Montgomery. I don't really like if I'm going to spend a premium dollar, I'm going to find $500 to just get to Castillo. And
Sure.
I like Michael Waka. I think he's constantly been undervalued this year. You and I have played a lot of Michael Waka, at least touted a lot of Michael Waka, and he continues to just be good. And I don't think people still think he's good. The only problem is we're paying 9,800. Like, I don't know if the start he has against Baltimore, like, let's say that ends up being the same line. I don't know if that wins you a tournament. And, you got to assume, after a month and a half of spending time in the IL, he's going to have his pitch count obviously increase. So could I see it into the 80s tonight? Sure. Miami's offense has been pretty poor against right-handed pitching since the break. And they've been pretty poor against right-handed pitching kind of overall. Now, I think a large part of that is Chisholm's been hurt a lot. They didn't have Jake Berger early in the year. They obviously acquired him in a trade. Like, there's been a lot of moving pieces. So that could change at any point. And Miami's numbers by the end of the year.
So it's not awful.
It's power. It's like, it's power. They don't strike out a ton, but like OPS down, WOBA down. They have a lot of powerful bats. And so, like, I'm okay getting to Waka. And that's kind of how I feel about Jordan Montgomery, too. When you look at Arizona, they're very middling against left-handed pitching since the All-Star break. They have a 15% strikeout rate.
Right.
15. Like, that is, like, better than what the Nationals have been all year. And we know how annoying it is to pitch against the Nationals. At 9,800, if you're paying for a guy who's not going to strike people out, I just can't really get behind it. So I think it's Castillo, and then there's a large gap. And this is kind of, back to the point I made earlier. Like, there's not a lot of pitching options. And I'm just really taking shots on SP2s here that are 7,500 or lower.
I was going to say, so you're 75, I imagine. Not because you're talking about Tukey here against Seattle, but because you're talking about Winans here against the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, Toussaint has been, the strikeouts were fine. The Texas game was kind of a surprise. The Yankees game, not so much. We know how bad they are against right-handed pitching. 2 home runs against the Cubs obviously hurts. Peripherals are even worse than his numbers suggest. Like, I'm not in on Tukey because the rest of the Mariners lineup has been pretty good too. It hasn't just been Julio Rodriguez. Like, it's Julio Rodriguez is obviously like the hottest hitter in baseball, but there's been other pieces behind it. I think it's Winans here. 7 scoreless last time he pitched in the majors. That was almost 10 days ago. It was against the Mets, and the Mets have been, decent of late. But I like the spot. I love the strikeouts that he's shown at the major league level. And obviously the Mets offense, is like the lineup we see now is not the lineup that I think anyone expected when Alvarez is not playing today and Starling Marte is not playing today and Vientos is on the IL and Beatty's, been horrible. Like, the bottom half of this lineup is super exploitable. I mean, not even the middle, like Dan Vogelbach's hitting 5th. Yeah. So I like Winans.
Maybe winning us tournament tonight.
Let's go.
Maybe. So listen, I mean, that's where we went to today. Our guy Mark in the chat this morning when he's watching the podcast messaged me, says, if you don't just immediately go to Winans as your SP2, I'm turning this off. I said, well, you won't be disappointed because that's basically where we went on this show. But you did mention Alec Marsh on the show this morning as well. Obviously he's the long reliever, but that's kind of been the role he's playing. 5 and 4 innings the last 3 outings for him here. You're still good to go here, or are you worried now that he is less assured, I guess, of innings?
No, I think I figured he was going to be the long man. I don't know if I mentioned that last night. If I didn't, that's my apologies to the audience. I figured I had mentioned it. I'm fine with Marsh. Look, I think there's a couple approaches you could take. I am on Paul Blackburn at 7K. The field is also in on Paul Blackburn. He's right there with Luis Castillo in terms of ownership. It, like we mentioned, Kansas City's offense has been really good. They were not really good earlier in the year, so their numbers season long versus recent are very, very different, right? So
it's almost like the Seattle effect. As J-Rod goes, Seattle goes. As Bobby Witt goes, Kansas City goes. Right?
Sure.
So.
I think the one thing that Paul Blackburn always has, if he has his best stuff, it's hard to hit home runs against him. He is a ground baller at heart, and I think that goes for every ground baller, right? It's like you put him in a really good ballpark in Oakland. So I do have interest there. I think Marsh is a very interesting option, like you said. Oakland has been better in the power department, but like it's Oakland we're talking about, and other than Zach Geloff and Ledmus Diaz, who we pinpoint on the podcast this morning, no one in the lineup's doing anything. Like it's those two, and then it's everybody else. Then here's the third option, John. And it was literally as going to it, Ryan shows up in the nick of time, reading my mind. It's Drew Rom. And again, it's not that this is like the most comfortable play, because it's not, right? It's a 4K pitcher that when you look at his numbers in AAA, he had like a 5.6 ERA.
Yeah.
But his final 2 starts in AAA, he had 18 strikeouts. And I like Cabrian Hayes quite a bit tonight. And I like some pieces. Endy Rodriguez is hitting 5th. Like, that's a really nice catching piece for really cheap at 5th. But, like, Pittsburgh stinks.
Yeah.
Like, their offense stinks. Like, Connor Joe still has good numbers against left-handed pitching. Where is that showing up? Because the numbers I'm looking at since the All-Star break, they're 29th in OPS. They're 29th in WOBA. Mm-hmm. They have an 0.90 ISO. That's 29th. Like, yeah, they're 22% strikeout rate. Great. They're putting the ball in play. But if all 20, like, who cares if they're putting the ball in play if nothing's coming from it? So,
not that he was hitting well, but the Pirates just placed Henry Davis on the IL. The A's also just optioned Soderstrom back to AAA. So, couple of roster moves teams we've talked about.
The Soderstrom move definitely makes sense because he's been struggling quite a bit outside that home run the other day. But like it is intriguing because if you played Drew Rom and Luis Castillo, you have $4,400 on for position players on a slate that has the Braves against a lefty, has the Rangers against Slade Cecconi, who, you know, you look at the peripherals, and again, he's the long man. You look at the peripherals, suggest, oh my God, regression coming, and it's the Rangers, right? And you have the Padres now against Weathers. Like, there's a lot of really good offenses to spend up on. So, Marsh and Rom feel really good to me as SP2s on this slate. Now, for people like DePrince and people that play on FanDuel, who would be like, well, would you play them on FanDuel? That's a tough sell because I'd probably just plug Luis Castillo in and move on.
Points, right? So
yeah, I'm probably just plugging Luis Castillo. Like I'm looking at I'm trying to pull up the FanDuel ownership here just to give you guys a sense, you FanDuel players out there. But it's Luis Castillo and then it's everybody else, so Paul Blackburn's getting a lot of ownership. I know you aren't as bullish on Paul Blackburn. I mean,
Paul Blackburn could just simply be people looking at this slate being like, what do I do? Right? Like, where else do I go? He's home. All right, I'll go against Kansas City here. He's pitching okay. You know, like I would rather Winans over Blackburn, though, I think, right? No?
Winans over Blackburn, probably, yeah. I mean, especially at less ownership, that intrigues me because
the man just had 33 fantasy points against the same team.
Right.
Like,
now to give the Mets some credit over that stretch since he's been gone, they've been pretty good. Like they just had 2 double-digit scoring outputs in a row. Their lineup is not great though. Like half that was Vogelbach grand slam, which DJ Stewart continues that home run. So like, yeah, obviously things are gonna like correct itself eventually. Sorry, Vreeland. I know more pain coming, but at lower ownership, I prefer Winans. Just saying, I do think Blackburn is in play, and I understand why the field is kind of going in his direction.
We haven't mentioned Paxton or Javier here. Is that just a full fade for you?
Yeah, I'd rather play the offenses than either of those pitchers.
Sure. Michael in here, Blackburn and Tukey tonight here.
Like, the Tucson thing is, like, mildly interesting. But he's just not a good pitcher.
I said once was a prospect in the Braves system, right? But that should tell you all you need to know. The Braves didn't hold on to him; they let him go. Right?
Yes. Yeah. If they thought he was going to be something, he would have got the 9-year, $60 million contract that everyone gets underpaid with.
Yeah.
That's like the Braves and Astros staple, right? Like, those two teams are better than anybody. So, yeah, like, again, guy has like a decent strikeout appeal this year, right? 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's kind of been that guy everywhere he's gone. He also has 6.6 walks per 9. He also allows over a home run per 9. He has an xFIP of 5 and a FIP of 5 and a Sierra of 5, right? If you're not going Castillo, or if like you're ranking like, all right, John, let's do this exercise before we move on. 7,500 and lower, 7,500 and below, rank your top 3 arms. For me, Toussaint's 4th, so like I wouldn't have him in the top 3. But 75 or below, rank your top 3 arms.
I mean, it's Winans, probably Marsh.
Yep.
And then maybe by default you're pitching Blackburn there just in case.
What is your take on Rum at 4K?
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong either. Rom's interesting at 4K. Again, he just like hasn't. No. Only like recently, very recently, he's been
very recently,
right? Like for the most part, he's been trash.
Yep.
And he's a guy that's probably just getting called up because he's got options to like send back down after this outing. So like, who was supposed to pitch for them? Did we have a starter for them this morning? I forget now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not either. All right. Let's just move on to the hitters here. Those of you tuning in, we appreciate all of you. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. It'd be no better time to get that notifications turned on for us. You get notified for all videos that we got going on throughout the week here. You can also go all pro. Got a nice offer right now we got going on here. You sign up, become an all pro member today. You get access to all of our premium content, our premium tools, premium Discord. You get live expert advice, myself, James Rondier, and there, Howard Bender, Andrew Cooper, the whole crew, getting you guys ready for fantasy football season, fantasy baseball still going on, NBA and NHL. They're starting to kick off in little over a month's time. So get involved today. Go all pro. Become a member of the Fantasy Alarm family. Catcher position. Not a ton when I was looking over it today that I was like immediately drawn to. I think the Texas guys are a bit interesting at their price points here tonight. Where were you going?
So I'm definitely interested in both Texas guys because, again, Mantiply is going to open, but we're likely to see Slade, Cecchione as the long man. So I like both guys. Garver's hitting righties and lefties well. I actually probably lean Garver a little bit here. Heim hasn't been great since returning, so I'll lean Garver. I like Wilson Contreras. Again, Hatch is just an opener. They're going to go to Bailey Falter as the long man, and we know how good Wilson Contreras has been against lefties this year. So I like Wilson Contreras. If I'm spending up, I'm going to Sean Murphy. That's the only guy over 4K, over Wilson Contreras that I really would get to. He's starting to hit again, and the power is starting to come around again. A homer in back-to-back games earlier this week or last week. So I like Sean Murphy. And then I mentioned it ahead. If you're not playing Rom, Andy Rodriguez hitting 5th is really interesting. He's $2,900. He's a switch hitter, and he just
Fits build.
Yeah, dude, it just fits builds when you play someone at 3K at a position that like is very volatile to begin with. Like catcher is the most volatile position we have. If you get like imagine you hit a home run at 2,900, you'd feel really good about that player.
Would you play Gabriel Moreno against a lefty here, or are you just more worried about Montgomery being the better player?
I wouldn't like fault you if you got there. I mean, 4.3 implied runs. And what have we said about Gabriel Moreno all year long? Like he's hit lefties, right? 216 ISO,
5 RBI game as well the last time he played. So
back-to-back multi-hit games. Like he's been good. He undoubtedly he's been good. 414 WOBA against left-handed pitching.
For $2,500, about as good as you're going to get for a catcher. So
right. I'll slot him in with the same like lane that I said at Envy. Sure. Like if you get a home run out of him at 2,500, like you're in a great position.
Much like we used to tout Zunino, I don't mind Cal Raleigh here. I mean, sure. Power-wise, he could go up there and double dong and call it a day. You could also go 0 for 5 with a bunch of strikeouts. So anything totally possible when it comes to Cal Raleigh there. First base. A lot of top-end spends. Where are you focusing your efforts, though?
So I think Matt Olson's going to go a little over the radar here, or under the radar, I mean. And David Peterson's been worse against lefties than he has against righties. Now, he's been bad against both splits. I'm not suggesting that like I wouldn't play righties here. But lefties have a 241 ISO. So he's definitely been worse in the power department against lefties. And Olson, another guy on the long list of like elite hitters that just hit both splits. We talk about the Astros guys all the time. 297 ISO, 370 WOBA. So you could definitely get to Olson. You definitely get to Goldie if you want. We talked about it on the podcast last night. He's been coming around. He'll get one at bat against Hatch, and then he'll flip over and get at bats against Bailey Falter. And he's long been elite against left-handed pitching. I like Nathaniel Lowe in the mid tier, John. Like he has been really up and down this year, especially after I think last year we're like, this is finally. Finally, like the guy, right? And then he has had a good year. I'm not saying he's had, 280, probably going to have like 85 ribbies and 20 home runs, but like we probably thought like, maybe he's going to hit 30 home runs and drive in 100 runs this year. And people who drafted him in fantasy formats are a little disappointed. And but I do like him here in this against Slade Kecchione. And I didn't love anything else other than like Connor Joe if you're not playing Rom. I think this is kind of a weaker first base position.
I think on a smaller slate, if you wanted to get different tonight, you could play Gavin Sheets. If you're not pitching Castillo, we talked about it, right? The home run ball is a problem for him. As likely as anybody in that lineup to go yard is Gavin Sheets, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I think hitting 6 tonight, if you weren't playing Castillo, if you were 3-maxing and you went Castillo and 2, obviously, it makes sense to maybe go against Castillo in 1, and Sheets should be part of that. $2,500 for a home run. I played him the other day at 2K, and he came through with the homer. Kitson, 3 of 5. Could easily pay off the $2,500. Castillo, as good as he's been, he hasn't been perfect even in games he's been good. So, could easily give up a home run and still pitch well. So, kind of work.
I think like as basically insert what you just said about Gavin Sheets, I would insert about Garrett Cooper if he played tonight for San Diego, 2,600. Like exactly the same
stacking
play
against
almost.
Stacking against Miami tonight is a thing that I'm going to be looking to do because Weathers is so bad.
He cannot weather any storm. John.
No, he can't. He cannot. It's I was trying to come up with some sort of Miami Hurricanes analogy, but I just couldn't figure it out in time while thinking on my feet here. You say you like the Boston offense. Costas back in the lineup having his tooth drained. I don't know what the hell is going on there with the mouth infection, but would you go ahead and attack Javier tonight with Costas, Devers, and crew?
Yeah, I'm like confused by the Christian Javier thing because there's a lot of steam on him for ownership, and you just look at things like what has Christian Javier done to like gain anybody's
7,100.
Like,
I think that's it.
Like,
I think it's just the price.
It has to be the price because even when he was expensive, he wasn't striking people out, and And he had a 9 strikeout game, like semi recently, but like still wasn't good in that. Like still not great in that start. Yeah, I'm okay with getting to Boston, and like you said, the lefties especially against Casas 358 WOBA and 212 isolated power against Javier. So interesting to see the lineup spot too, hitting fourth.
Yeah,
I
obviously
saw
somebody not in the lineup tonight. No, Turner. Turner's got a scheduled off day today. So they got Casas moved up. That's what we got.
okay. And Story moved all the way down to 6 because he can't.
Well, I mean, he strikes out. His Story strikeout prop tonight's 2.5. So
oh my god!
I think I might have made that up, but I felt like I saw it and I was like, that seems wildly high. I'm just going to go confirm that my memory is not confusing me or not. But yeah, so I think the Red Sox are interesting. Yeah, it's 1.5. Story strikeout props at 1.5, but still is a lot. Most of the strikeout props are set at 0.5. So they got them for 1.5 strikeouts tonight.
If it was 2.5, I feel like you just have to bet the under, right? Like that's a lot of strikeouts.
Chris Davis, when he went 0 for 60, I don't think had a strikeout prop at 2.5. So he might have. He was $100 on FanDuel. They were literally begging me to play him.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, let's move on over to second base here. You mentioned the other day Altuve, one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball, going up against a lefty and James Paxton, which is seeing some regression go a little bit. Are you looking to spend up for the Astros second baseman today?
Like you definitely can, and I think he is a good play. He's starting to come around. I know earlier in the year he wasn't hitting lefties. Last 30 days, very small sample, 304 ISO, 544 WOBA. Like the Astros are now hitting lefties like we thought they would earlier in the year because they weren't, and now they are, and that's probably because Kyle Tucker and Jordan exist in the world, and they hit lefties better than like anyone in the world hits lefties. But yeah, I like Altuve. The only problem is, John, that means I'm not playing Ha-Seong Kim if I'm playing Altuve. Well, I could play Ha-Seong Kim at third, but that means I'm not playing one of the 7 third basemen that you can spend up on. So Altuve's great. 6,400 is not great, but I think you will have the money to get there. Semien is great, 50, but I think 5,700 is expensive. Just play Ha-Seong Kim at 4,700 and move on. He was in my playbook today as one of the players I wrote up. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. You know, you mentioned the Padres as your stack. I don't want to spoil anything, but may or may not be my favorite stack of the night. And like the 6th highest roster team of the night as well, which makes me like them even more. We know his pedigree in the KBO, and it's now translating to Major League Baseball. And since day one, he's hit lefties. That's been like his MO. Like even when he was struggling against righties, like he wasn't struggling against lefties. He was playing every day. 235 ISO, better than Soto, better than Machado, better than Bogarts, like everyone better than everyone other than Tatis. 410 WOBA, better than everyone except Manny Machado. So the guy is just a star against lefties, steals bases, hits for power, hits multi-hit games. Sign me up for Ha-Seong Kim is my favorite.
Yeah, I like it. I know if you just look at his recent last 10 numbers, they aren't great, but this is a prime matchup for him to take advantage of for sure. Mid-tier, I mean, how do you just not keep looking at Pablo Reyes? Second short eligibility here. 24 fantasy points 2 nights ago, 13 against the Yankees. He's just a hitting machine right now.
Yeah, and he's showing a little bit of versatility here, huh? Back-to-back games with a stolen base. He hit a home run not too long ago. He hit a go-ahead grand slam. Was it a walk-off grand slam? It was a walk-off grand slam, right? When he hit it against Casey, walk-off grand slam, and just just chugging along, hitting 330 on the year. So, I think Pablo Reyes is a surefire value, and it's a bad position, truthfully. Like I don't know if there's many other places I even would want to go. Like that's mostly why I've plugged Kim. But if I'm not plugging Kim or not spending all the way up, it's mainly just because I'm just getting to Pablo Reyes and then moving on to the next position.
I agree with you 100% there. Third base then. Where are you looking to go? There's a lot of top ends here.
Dude.
Riley, Devers, Arenado, Bregman, Machado, You mentioned Kim, Hayes, like literally 6 deep, 7 deep here at the position.
Dude, FanDuel players should be thankful this evening that they could play 2. Like, honestly, if I'm playing FanDuel tonight, I am using 2 third basemen. That is my, like, almost in every build, because how can you go wrong with any person you just mentioned? Like, Riley has the matchup against Peterson. We know Austin Riley against left-handed pitching. We know Austin Riley has the second most home runs since the All-Star break. Rafael Devers is coming off probably his best series all year. Probably jumpstart to like another, kickstarting his like getting back to 40 home runs and 110 RBIs by the end of the year. And now has a really good matchup in his own right against Javier, who struggled. Nolan Arenado gets to face lefty for 2 to 3 at-bats here against Bailey Falter. Bregman's been rolling. Manny Machado's numbers against lefties are flat out elite. I mean, they're on par with Ha-Seong Kim and Fernando Tatis. 221 ISO, 421 WOBA for Machado against left-handed pitching this year. You mentioned Ke'Bryan Hayes, one of the hottest hitters in baseball. Ha-Seong Kim you could play here. My favorite third baseman is probably Manny Machado. Riley is probably second. And then probably Devers slightly ahead of Arenado. I prefer the St. Louis stack to Boston, but I prefer Devers as a one-off to Arenado. Sure. And then obviously getting to Ke'Bryan Hayes in the mid-tier is fine. I don't know if you feel this way, though. Only other name I would literally care about playing is probably Ezekiel Duran. Sure. Who I think is a fine value here at 3,700
tonight. So I mean, I agree with you. I think there's some really great, good value there for sure.
Other than that, though, like position, like opportunity cost. Spend the hell up. Just spend up here.
I agree with you, 100% here. Shortstop. Seager's at the top. Witt's at the top. 2 more guys that we're really liking here. Edman will eventually get the lefty, leading off at 43. Grissom in the lineup tonight, hitting 9th, $3,400 against Peterson's pretty interesting. Then we mentioned you can get Reyes, you can get Andrews down here if you're not in on Castillo. Wynn is $2,500 here for St. Louis as well, hitting 9th.
Yeah, shortstop's definitely interesting. I'm definitely spending up on Seager. You could definitely obviously play Witt if you're not playing Blackburn. He is as good of a fantasy asset as there is in the game. Edman's great in the mid-tier. I think J.P. Crawford is someone who the only addition I would throw out there. He's back off the IL. He is leading off tonight for Seattle. I like J.P. Crawford quite a bit. I prefer Arcia of the 2 Atlanta shortstops. I understand Grissom is $700 cheaper, but you look at Orlando Arcia's numbers against left-handed pitching. John, he's the best Atlanta Brave when it comes to left-handed pitching. The best. A lineup that is the best in baseball, that features Acuna, features Olsen. Like, the NL MVP is in this lineup, and it's not even close. 339 ISO for Arcia, 475 WOBA against left-handed pitching. And no one plays him. And again, Grissom, probably better value, but Arcia's numbers just stand out so significantly. So I like him a little bit more. I actually wrote Mason Wynn up in today's playbook. This is one of the spots that if I'm not playing Corey Seager or Arcia, really gravitated to. When you look at Mason Wynn in the minor leagues,
sure,
and we're going to get, Bailey Falter as the presumed long man, Mason Wynn did damage against left-handed pitching. 353, 423, 631 slash, 9 home runs in 62 games. He hit 9 home runs against righties so that means in 200 less at bats, he hit the same amount of home runs he did against lefties as he did in righties. He is a lefty masher through and through. He's one of my favorite values of the slate. I know that means you're not playing Corey Seager, or you're not playing Bobby Witt, or you're not playing someone else, but again, Padres are not cheap. Braves are not cheap. We need to find value somewhere, and I found a lot of value going to Mason Wynn.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. He was one of my favorite plays just because of the spend down option. Plus, like, if you're looking at the Cardinals, You want to spend up for Goldschmidt. You want to spend up for Arenado. Well, as much as I like Edman, Wynn gets you those guys a lot easier. So I was 100%.
You can play Edman, by the way. You can play Edman in the outfield.
Edman in the outfield, too. Yeah, for sure. But just the way you were building lineups, or if you're not 4 or 5 stacking, with Castillo and O'Neill, like Wynn was the in for that.
That dude, you are on fire today, John.
That's two. If I could have spun that Hurricanes one I wanted.
But you know what? Good. Probably good idea to stay away from that one.
That's true. All right, let's go to outfield. We got Acuna versus lefty. We got Tatis versus lefty. We also have Tucker and Jordan back in the lineup here against Paxton. Soto gets Weathers here. I know Soto's a lefty spot there, but just Weathers is terrible. Where's your top spend in the outfield tonight?
We just got the Padres lineup too, by the way.
Tell me that everybody's in. Is anybody not playing?
Everybody's in, including Garrett Cooper, hitting 8th. I do have an interesting piece that we have time to circle back to this. Campusano is in the lineup tonight, and he's $3,000, hitting 330 over his 320 over his last 10 games, 2 home runs, 5 ribbies. I'm a little intrigued on Luis Campusano here, hitting 7th in front of Garrett Cooper. I think, dude, there's a really good case for like all 9 Padres tonight. Truthfully, I was hoping El Gary was in the lineup, but El Gary is not in the lineup. Campusano is perfectly fine getting there. But I do love both Tatis and Juan Soto. Acuna, fine. I didn't find myself really getting to Astros tonight. Not that I wouldn't, because they've been so good against lefties. Right. Paxton's also just been good against lefties. He's like, especially in the power department. And I'm not saying like these are two of the most coveted hitters in they're 2 of the best hitters in baseball. They could obviously do damage against Paxton. I just didn't find myself getting there when I'm, so heavily invested in the Padres and they're right around their price, or so heavily invested in the Braves. And like, if I play a Brave stack without Acuna, it feels bad. Yeah. So not that I wouldn't play the Astros, but I just gravitated elsewhere. No one else really in the 5K tier stood out to me all that much, though.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's kind of how I felt as well. We talked a little bit of Miami when Snell was a starter, obviously not anymore, as you mentioned. Yoshida, had that one good game in Yankee Stadium, but obviously he's in a little bit of a slump here now. You do have a story leading off tonight for Oakland. If you think he can get on, he'll probably steal if that ends up, being the case here. More guys in the mid-tier like Ozuna, Chas McCormick, Lourdes. We mentioned Edman, Verdugo. So a decent 4K grouping.
Yeah, I think Ozuna's as good as it gets here. Had the hit streak broken. It was like
Did you
16.
see some of the strikeouts he had because of the bad umping yesterday?
I mean, dude.
He struck out on a ball that was called strike at his ankles. He's like, how was I supposed to swing at that?
This is how my hit streak is going to end. 17 games was the hit streak. He's 17-game hit streak broken. He's mashed lefties, 303 ISO. Just, moving up in the lineup too, hitting 5th. I really like that spot for him. He's going to get all the pitches to hit in that spot. So I think Ozuna of this grouping is my favorite. I do like a story, at least getting one at bat against a lefty, right? Like that's where his bread and butter has been. And he can steal against lefty, righty. He's the fastest player ever. So I do think that's mildly interesting. Edman's interesting. Verdugo is a little interesting here, 42. But all roads for me in this mid-tier lead back to Marcelo.
Yeah, I agree. I like that mid-tier call. What's your values on tonight's slate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for Tyler O'Neill against lefties. We're gonna get Tyler O'Neill against left-handed pitching here. Do they face a lefty every slate? Like every slate, they have to be facing lefties. Like it just feels pretty crazy at this point. So I like him. I like Jordan Walker. We mentioned Connor Joe is interesting. Trent Grisham is a guy that I think we had a shout earlier for Trent Grisham.
Our guy Jason Jackson here, Trent Grisham season.
Yeah, it's interesting because Weathers has just been so bad against both splits. Lefties are actually, have the better numbers against him. And Grisham has been really good against left-handed pitching this year. 187 ISO, 364 WOBA against lefties, 319 ISO allowed for Ryan Weathers. So I know Grissom's been bad, and not the same player we seemingly thought he would be a couple years
Right.
ago. Maybe he should invest in some batting gloves. Maybe that could. I
Never
found out. I found out that using a golf glove helps your golf game. Just little things like that, simplistic things. So, I would be okay getting to Grisham, and you play Kim, Tatis, Soto, that stack works. It's a 9 through 3 stack. So, he's a little interesting for me as well.
Yeah, DePrince. So the opener is a righty, but a lefty is going to be the long man for going up against the Cards here tonight. So yes, he may get in at bat against a righty, but the rest of the time they'll be running up against lefties here. So
yeah, and that's a tricky part about the opener thing, right? It's like, oh man, Tyler O'Neill has to face a righty. It's like, yeah, but he's going to face him one at bat, and if you get a positive result, that's a big time win. And it's not like, Thomas Hatch is,
right, he's going to throw an inning. So
and he's been
he
bad.
May not even face O'Neill is what I'm saying. O'Neill hits 5th, right?
No, O'Neill's hitting 2nd tonight.
Oh, they moved him up. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
he's hitting 2nd tonight. No, but Thomas Hatch has been bad against both splits, so it's not even like 333 WOBA allowed to righties, 350 to lefties. He's been bad against both splits. So O'Neill is in a good spot, regardless of Hatch or Bailey Falter coming around on the other side.
Right. You mentioned some of the other guys in this mid tier, but I do like obviously Melendez. I know you're more on Blackburn, but I like KC here tonight as well. Some of those guys in their lineup. Under 3K plays, anyone in particular that you're keying in on? Our guy Mark says somehow Kevin Pillar ended up in all 3 of his lineups here this evening. Are you in on Pillar tonight? $2,400.
Yeah, man, he's been good against lefties all year, and I can't fault you, Mark. He's free, and this is you're getting a guy hitting 7th with a 218 ISO for free in a team in a lineup that has 6.3 implied runs, right? They're the best offense in the league. He's hitting in a really good spot in the lineup. I like Kevin Pillar quite a bit. He made the core plays over on FantasyAlarm.com in the playbook section. So yeah, I think Kevin Pillar stands out as one of the better values. And he's also probably the only guy. You mentioned Gavin Sheets, that he fits here too if you wanted to play him.
Sure.
But he's the only guy sub 3K that I'd really be taking any type of look at. Maybe Grossman, but he's not even going to get a lefty here, Grossman's going to he's never even going to see man to play. So.
Yeah. All right, Gabe, let's go to the Call of Fame here. Actually, quick question here from Jason. Pillar or Jordan Walker tonight?
I would say Kevin Pillar. I do like both. I'll go Kevin Pillar. Jordan Walker showing a few signs of life. But Jordan Walker has also been better against right-handed pitching, and he's going to get a
sure.
ball.
Sure. All right, Call of Fame time. Give me your home run call for the night.
I'm gonna go. It's gonna be a very Padres-centric segment here. I'm gonna go Fernando Tatis hits those long.
I was going Manny Machado. So
it's gonna be this is gonna be such a Padres.
Not shocked here. We do like the pod sign against Ryan Weathers. Stack of the night. We'll just both agree that our top stack is gonna be the Padres. So give me your give me your 1B.
My 1B top stack is Atlanta.
All right, so we're both in on the same guys. Give me your value or contrarian stack.
Let's pull up ownership here, because I would say Atlanta or St. Louis, but they're getting a lot of. Atlanta is the easiest cheap stack to fit that are also really good, right? Because O'Neill exists, Mason Wynn exists. Right then and there, it's free. Wilson Contreras is 4K, and you already have 3 of your 4 pieces. But now they're the second highest roster team. I'll say you go first.
I'll go first.
You're in Kansas City, okay. And no one's getting to Kansas City either, so that's a good one. I'm inclined to say Boston, because nobody's playing Boston tonight. And I just find it so weird why there's so much interest in Christian Javier. And I get it. There's just people taking shots on like different teams, right? It's just like people like, or different guys like, oh, Christian Javier is a better pitcher than 7,100. Well, that's what I thought with Luis Severino way back when. And look what happened to Luis Severino. I guess I'm just going to say Boston. But a lot of the teams I like tonight are like largely the higher rostered teams of the evening.
Sure.
Except San Diego. Except San Diego, who's still coming in as the 5th highest team of the night.
Oh, that's good for us because we're going there.
Yes.
So, what's your value play tonight?
Value play. I'm gonna go Mason Wynn as my value play tonight.
Yeah, Mason Wynn works for me as well. It's where I was heading. It's $2,500. Again, he fits the stacks we want. Doesn't play the position that we'd be looking to target. So that's where I am as well. Those of you tuning in here, again, thank you all for joining. If you throw us a like and sub to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. Again, get notifications on for all of the shows we do throughout the week here at Fantasy Alarm, not just the MLB DFS Playbook show, but we also have plenty of fantasy football live streams throughout the week. If you're into NBA DFS, myself and James Grande do our NBA DFS live coverage as well, so you can stick with us throughout the channel throughout the winter months, and we'll be able to do some NBA coverage for everybody here and just kind of hang with all of us with everything that's going on. You can also access all of our premium content when you go to fantasyalarm.com/win, access tonight's playbook, access to our premium Discord, and all premium content that we have out on site there as well. Right here, the Prince, San Diego for all the money. I think that's where we're going for sure. Mark wants to know where the CSGO show was. You're about 3 years too late for that one. Could have done a CSGO show back.
Yeah, during COVID, CSGO was never as prevalent as it was during COVID for DFS.
That said, I do still like to sweat out some lines when I wake up.
Sure.
And go see if Simple can get some kills for me.
Yeah. True.
All right, let's build a line. I got a couple minutes left. Starting off at pitching, I think we kind of agreed. We're going to go Castillo and Winans.
Yeah, we'll do a little spend down build too.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of good value. We could just play Winans as our spend too.
All right. So third base, we wanted Machado.
Mason Wynn at short.
Wanted Kim.
Mason Wynn at short. Yeah,
I got Wynn. We'll do Tatis here. All right, catcher. I think Gabe Moreno probably has to.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's. So we just got no Corbin Carroll tonight for Arizona.
Okay.
If that makes you more interested in
Monty.
Kennedy hitting second. Moreno is hitting 7th, so there is that. But no Corbin Carroll.
Just a punt.
I think there's 3 catcher options if you want. If we're punting, Moreno, Rodriguez, or Campusano, who's starting at 3K.
Sure. We'll see where we can get then. Okay. See where we can get to. Plug Pilar in there.
Yep, that's a good one. If we wanted to stay Padres, Garrett Cooper. If we wanted to go all the way down, and spend, he's hitting 8th tonight, and then you have a boatload of money to basically get. Oh, we're so.
The thing is, there's really not like a spend up. I mean, how do we find $900? Right, that's.
Well, do you feel better?
I mean, do we?
What about Olsen at first?
Okay, Olsen at first
instead of Acuna.
Would you rather just do Goldschmidt at that point, or would you rather Olsen?
I like the Braves. We don't have any Braves. Well, we have Pilar, and then you play Winans.
Yeah, where is he? I'm
75.
I'm blind to his
75.
Do we have a 2K outfielder?
On
it tonight? Doesn't look like we do. If we did go down then to Goldie, 27, whole lot of options here. Let's go.
I don't like really anyone other than
going down to Casas, 42, Verdugo.
Almost
got a 1-4 Red Sox. Right?
Yeah.
1-4 Red Sox could work there. with three-man Padres.
Yep.
One off Winans and a one off Atlanta with Castillo and Win there. So
I dig it.
Yeah, not a bad spot. Again, we're in on the Padres tonight. Obviously, we like Atlanta. We think Castillo is the top price pitcher to own. Winans in the mid tier. There's certainly some capable pivots for everybody. You can check those out in the MLB DFS playbook that is live over on fantasyalarm.com. If you're not yet an All-Pro subscriber, again, you can go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Take advantage of both our monthly or our annual subscription package. Annual saves you 40% off the total month-to-month price for the year. So really big discount there, locking us up for a year, becoming a part of the Fantasy Alarm family there. So you can also scan that QR code, get access to all of our premium content, premium tools, our premium Discord channels as well, and to get that live expert advice. Myself, Grande, Howard Bender, Justin Fensman, Justin Vreeland, Colby Conway, Dan Malin, the whole crew, Andrew Cooper, Kev Tompkins, Britt Flynn, they're all in there answering your questions. And really no better time than now to join right ahead of the fantasy football season. 2 years ago, Millionaire Mike won $1 million on a single bullet using the NFL DFS playbook. And then he nearly took down the showdown slate 2 weeks later, cashing in for six figures. So a lot of winning money here over at Fantasy Alarm right as we hit the NFL season. So come build your bankroll with us for the MLB DFS product for the next few weeks. Roll it into the NFL season, roll it into NHL and NBA DFS, and keep on winning here with the family. James and I will be back tomorrow. Good luck, everybody, tonight, and we will catch you all later.